Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Milen and I'm a personal stylist, and today we're talking about part 2 of my accessory series, which is going to be all about jewelry and metals. As I mentioned before, I really wanted to do an entire series on all things accessories when it comes to essences. I really love how accessories can help you bring in or infuse those essences into your outfit. So I wanted to do a small series to really break it down on each piece or each type of accessory so that you can kind of build your wardrobe that way. So today's accessory is one I actually struggled with the most along my journey, and just recently feel confident in it. It was easier to give advice about jewelry, harder to implement it on myself. And it actually is the question I get asked the most in any of my sessions with clients is, where should, we put the jewelry? How big should it be? What kinds? How much? Right? All of that is very important questions. And I will note that they do, or there is an impact with your body type, as well as your essences. But today we're just focusing on essences. I might do a video in the future of the, body type kind of impact on your jewelry. Today's video is sponsored by Linjer. I believe I'm saying that correctly, and it's a luxury, sustainable jewelry company that really focuses on luxury that's affordable for everyone. And so their mission is to empower women around the world to really embrace luxury jewelry that is sustainable and at very fair prices. So what's better than that? It's honestly so hard to find any kind of sustainable brand that is affordable. They tend to be in the higher bracket just because they have to use more materials and there's a lot more into it. And they can't take those kind of quick fast track methods to keep the prices low. But this company is on a mission to make it still affordable for everyone. Linjer uses all sustainable materials, 100% recycled gold and silver. They do still have, sterling silvers and real gold, as well as vermeil. I think I'm saying that correctly as well. That's just a type of silver that has been plated with gold or like covered with gold. So it is at a cheaper price, but you still get that quality, that look of gold that you would want. Sustainability is huge for me. That's kind of my favorite thing in the world when it comes to fashion. And it's not a very sustainable thing in general fashion, so I try to really focus in on ways that I can be. And partnering with very sustainable companies is very important to me, so I really was excited to share this one with you. Plus, it made perfect sense for this video. We're talking all about jewelry. With it being a luxury brand, they really do hope that these are pieces that will last you forever and that you didn't need to spend, an arm and a leg to get, which is huge. They're luxury, quality, but at lower prices. And still doing good for the environment. I mean, win-win all around. A couple other ways that they are sustainable is that they use lab-grown diamonds, so you do not need to feel bad about it. There is nothing icky there going on. Conflict-free diamonds. And all their packaging is sustainable and recyclable packaging, which is beautiful. And in fact, the packaging itself is stunning, so I was surprised. Sometimes when you hear things are going to be sustainable or recyclable, they kind of downgrade maybe the luxury in terms of packaging as a result, but this is really beautiful packaging, and you get to keep a little pouch that it comes in for when you travel, and the box is just adorable. The name Linjer is actually Norwegian, and I really hope I'm saying it correctly as best I can. And it actually means lines, which I was so excited when I saw that, considering we talk about lines on this channel. I love body lines, and so I thought it just fit perfectly. Although this is essences, I still think it's applicable. And how cool is that? I'll be showing you pieces that I got myself, that I purchased myself, and I will just be showing them whenever it's applicable to an essence, including these beautiful earrings that I'm wearing today that I have not stopped wearing. And I will make sure to link any of the ones that I have down below for you. And don't worry, I didn't forget about you at all. I've got a discount code, MilenEmilie, all one word. It's gonna be here on the screen as well as down below to shop for discounts. The discounts do change seasonally and kind of calendar wise. It'll change every once in a while. So just use the code, see what you get. Very exciting. It's on rotation, always applicable, and the link to shop is also down below. Now let's get into it. Dramatic essence. All right, so I did speak a little bit about kind of what makes a dramatic and some of the elements in an outfit that really showcases the drama. And those are sharpness, or anything that kind of, feels like there's an edge to it. So that can be sharpness, intensity, and maybe a little bit of that danger element. So for that sharpness, you want to focus on things that have little sharp edges. It can be spikes, it could be, pointy edges, it could be rough edging that doesn't feel smooth and soft and rounded. And then on the other side of that, you can look at intensity as more of a boldness. It doesn't have to be sharp, it could just be large and in charge and really commands attention in a very bold and big way. Chunky is kind of the word that it gets used a lot, and that's very applicable here. So chunkier necklaces, bracelets, earrings, those are going to feel more regal and more intense. There's a confidence that goes with it as well. For the danger element, now I think this could be really fun to play with, and sometimes depending on how you look at it, it might feel costumey, but on the right person and on the person that has this kind of dramatic essence, especially if you lean towards kind of the dark dramatics, that really intense, kind of almost not gothic, but sort of in that realm. Things that have chain studs, or kind of like a chain, if you think of armor chain, that looks really cool, and there's lots of necklaces that have that, or just those metal intricate details in like a top. It can almost be like a cover or a topper to your outfit, so it almost does feel like jewelry at that point. Now I think I mentioned this in my dramatic video, but metals and gemstones and the type of jewelry you're gonna get is gonna have an impact. And for metals, I actually do think that silver leans itself a little bit better in one form of dramatic. So you can do gold, of course. It's just depending on the kind of dramatic you are. So if you like kind of that darker element to it, a little bit more dangerous, then silver makes sense because it's got that cool undertone and it's a little bit less inviting, a little less cheerful. And so that kind of gives that impression of a bit more of that moodiness that you'd want. When we do gold, the impression can still be very commanding and very, confident and determined looking. It's very royal at that point. So if you wanted to go to that side, there's still drama there. It's just going to have a different feel to it. When it comes to the gemstones, you want kind of the darker, more richer colors that kind of feel, moody, gothic, and very intense. It's not going to feel soothing. Gamines. All right, name of the game is fun and playful and not taking it too seriously, but really using this accessory as a way to just infuse that kind of quirkiness, that kind of other, not following the rules a little bit, or bending the rules, I should say, or adding in that juxtaposition contrast that they love to do. It's like a little bit of a wink wink. I did not wink properly. Wink wink. Oh gosh, you get it. Jewelry for them is also a really good way to bring in their element of fun, of uniqueness to them, or at least standing apart, especially when they're wearing a very kind of basic outfit or something that's very neutral, something that doesn't feel overly gamine. If they add that jewelry element to it, that can really help to bring it down to their level. So in my gamine video, I talked a little bit about ways that you can kind of add in that element. One of the ways is with vintage pieces and a twist on vintage. So it's not, you know, exactly using it the way maybe an ethereal would wear vintage. It's more of a twist to it. So they might wear something completely opposing on their outfit with the jewelry that's very almost over the top sense of a piece, right? So it could be something super opulent but very like masculine and more neutral on the bottom, or their outfit. It's basically that juxtaposition thing I was talking about. So it could also be, yeah, like a really ultra feminine, very dainty, you know, costumey type of, maybe not dainty, but very like pearls everywhere, but then a very masculine outfit. That can be fun, right? Or the opposite, like very masculine jewelry per se, and then very feminine outfit, or just something that completely casual with very dressed up jewelry. And it's done in a way that looks very costumey on other people, but on them it just looks cool and it looks intentional, and it just fits their personality so well that when you were to speak to them or meet them, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. So in terms of actual like materials and what you want to wear, you want to look for things that feel a bit more costumey. So plastic, or that kind of look to it, chunkier, maybe a bit more bold, but it's colorful bold especially. You could do clay, especially if it looks like something that was handmade, but in like a fun and quirky way, not in a natural way, which we will talk about. Basically, you could think of it like when you would play dress up and you just put everything on and you just felt joy. That's what Gamins want to feel, and that's how they want others to feel when they see them, right? It's happy. There's a lot of quirkiness to it. It doesn't always have to be joy. It could be just lots of intrigue going on, and that they want to be noticed in the fact that they were different. As for metals, I do think silver and gold both equally work. But I think it depends on how you're using it. So if you're doing kind of that vintage nod, then silver and gold really do make sense, especially when there's that contrast. And if you're gonna go for more costumey type of jewelry, then that's a different vibe. So it really depends on the kind of gamin that you feel more inclined or in line with. It's got that like cheekiness to it all the time. It's not made to look, you know, elegant, or to look very put together, or to look very feminine. It's used in a fun way. Classic essence. Now for classics, you want to use jewelry as just like that little piece that kind of brings things together, that maybe a little bit of an elegance to it, or a bit more of that timeless aspect to it. It's not done in excess generally. I actually find that when there is excess levels of jewelry on a classic, there's other essences that have been infused, because a true classic does not want to adorn themselves. They like minimalism, easy. They don't want to think about it too much. So just knowing that one type of earring, for example, is going to always look good and always kind of match an outfit, and that's just easy. That's just the way to go. It's more that it's predictable and dependable and can last forever. It's that timeless element that they are and that they want to buy. So they will invest in like key pieces, let's say, that, like I said, go with kind of every outfit. And I do have classic essence, and so when I was buying my jewelry from Linjer, I really wanted to keep that in mind on what things I could bring in that maybe mix a bit of my essences, or like a few of them. So let me walk through what I got for more of a classic essence. So one of the main things with classic essence is daintiness, because it's not loud, it's not in your face. So I wanted to get something that really goes with that and was kind of multi-purpose, because you can change these up a little bit. So I'm going to show you the huggy earrings with these topaz kind of baguette charms on them. So the charms are removable, so if I wanted to, I could just do the hoops, and I will try to show you up close. I will also have little videos of it as well. And this is a really pretty topaz blue, which I love. It's in my color season. It's not too in your face either, because I don't want things to be a little too in anyone's face. And if I wanted to have a more simple look, I could just remove the little charm on there and I'm ready to go. I have soft autumn coloring, so I went with the vermeil gold. It looks better on me and I love, love, love gold. This is my way of kind of, you know, you gotta get closer a little bit to see jewelry or you don't notice it right away. I like that it's so small that if your hair is covering it, you don't really notice it, and then you just get little peeks of it as you move your hair, which is kind of always my aim when it comes to jewelry. I don't want it to be in anyone's face, and I don't want it to take away from my outfit. I find it just overwhelms me very quickly. These feel incredible quality. I feel like I'll have these for the rest of my life, which is very exciting. And like I said, conflict-free diamonds on here, which who could ever complain about that? So to recap, you do want timeless pieces. So things that have pearl in them is fairly timeless, and it has that elegance element that I know a lot of, you know, classics want to do. It also goes with a lot of different pieces because it's more of a neutral, if you want to think of it like that. So you could do like a very simple gold or silver chain. You could do a very simple bracelet that isn't, you know, adorned or very ornate, or like I said, very simple little hoops. Kind of like these gold ones, they turn into little tiny hoops. And another thing to note, it's not that they're all put on at once, so I wouldn't have earrings on, rings on, a bracelet on, a necklace on, then that starts to just overwhelm too quickly. So you want dainty pearl, you know, details, small scale diamonds, smaller chains, small studded or dangly earrings, very dainty and light. And for metals, you could do both gold and silver because they're classic, as well as higher quality. That's really important. And one of the reasons why I wanted to show this in the classic essence is because this is luxury, it's high quality, it's going to last. Naturals. Although naturals tend to be a bit more minimal, I do find a lot of them like jewelry, and so it's not an exclusive no jewelry zone. So depending on the kind of natural you are, depending if you're very like extreme minimal, you may not wear as much jewelry, but if someone is on the kind of like middle ground, they use jewelry to add just a little bit more to their outfit, especially if it is very minimal. And it's a way to kind of go down to like the roots of things, right? Things that feel very natural, like down to earth. They utilize things that aren't overly processed or that aren't, you know, manufactured looking or too shiny. It's grittier, it's more down to earth. You want to focus on things that are handmade, that look like you got the materials from earth essentially, or that have really earthy tones to them. So that can be things like clay, or you could use brass, gold, brass silvers, brass coppers, anything that doesn't look too shiny and kind of worn in a bit of a sense. Like it's not well kept, but intentionally. It just means that it's utilized. They want to use up their pieces and not feel like it's a waste, if that makes sense. It's to be worn and to be utilized. That's the point of it. And because they value, you know, low maintenance, they don't want things or jewelry that feel like a lot of work and to keep maintained. So they almost embrace when things get tarnished a little bit or they feel a little bit more lived in. For handmade, you can think clay. You could actually make your own. You could crochet or knit a pair. That's really pretty. Carved wood details look really cool. And again, that's using things from the earth. Something that has stones or anything that, you know, isn't super polished either. It kind of keeps its natural shape. For size, I think ideally you could go kind of in that medium because they tend to be a little bit more on the medium side of things. They're not overly dainty feeling, and they don't feel very, you know, intense either. They're pretty low-key, very, middle ground. And so you could go for middle size or medium size, moderate size jewelry. I think if it goes a little too dainty, sometimes it feels more on that classic side. But again, it kind of depends more on the materials and how it's presented. So if it's more natural, or if it feels a bit more worn and kind of lived in and in its natural element or state, then it still fits into that natural category. Because your body type can obviously have an impact, so maybe moderate sized jewelry doesn't work, but you're still a natural. For the metals, I think crushed or hammered, or like I said, more tarnished, brushed type of metals look really cool. Gold and silver work really well. You don't want it to be super shiny and processed or on the elegant side of things. It just literally signifies a more casual approach to jewelry in general. And you can do all the ones, right? Earrings, necklaces, bracelets, depending on the kind of natural you are. You either want to go more on the minimal side, which is a few pieces, or you can go a little bit heavier on the amount, just as long as it's keeping in with the kind of like casual and like very natural, down to earth feel to it. It might just be that other essences are influencing it. Ingenue essence. Now for this essence, the key things you want to focus on are cute. So generally speaking, if you can find pieces that really have that element to it, and cute can also be a little bit of that innocence element that I've talked about in my video going through this essence. And I actually think jewelry is such a fun way, because if you think about little girls, they love to put on jewelry and have fun with it, and they are attracted to generally things that are on that cutesier end, that feel very daintily feminine. It's not sensual femininity, so that's things like hearts and bows and maybe little lockets, or something that feels a tiny bit more cutesy and maybe even helps with that imagination in play. But again, you do want to go a little bit smaller, just because they tend to prefer or look really good in daintier things. So smaller form, little maybe fruits or florals, or smaller scale pearls, or smaller scale diamonds, essentially. So it's that daintiness again from maybe a classic, but it's less elevated, it's less timeless, it's more fun but cutesy fun, and it's more playful fun, or playful in the sense of bringing back that that youthful femininity, that innocent femininity that Asians tend to have. So I actually do think that these would work really well, and because they have that light blue, I've talked about that, where the pastels or that lighter kind of tone colors, that lightness in general, go really well with that kind of essence. And so I think this could work really well. I don't know if you could see, you'll see it in the video as well as the pictures, but it's that really light topaz blue. It's super beautiful. So I think that that's dainty enough, it's cutesy enough, it'll work well. And I do have this essence, so one of the other reasons I got that pair. You definitely don't want anything chunky or aggressive or too long or too much. You do want it to be on the daintier side. You could wear a lot of it, but it's not gonna feel like a lot because it's a smaller scale in terms of size. I also find that when people don't have this as their super dominant trait, and they wear like a pure ingenue type of jewelry, they feel really off, and that's a good sign for you to know that this maybe isn't your dominant essence, because it just feels too young girl or too cutesy and costumey even a little bit at that point. So a good measurement there. If you feel really at home with it, it might be your main essence. And it's not, I don't find this to be the best way to infuse it if it's not your main one, because sometimes that type of jewelry can really fall into this category and nowhere else, because it's really particular to this essence. Other ones that could do really well would be like a charm bracelet. Think about how fun that was as a kid, like collecting the charms, and they're cute. You get little hearts, you can get little animals on a charm bracelet. I think that that's just so perfectly engineered. It's just great. Metal wise, I actually think rose gold works really well in this essence because it's pink and it's light and it's a bit more of that femininity that looks really good with them, and it's more of a dainty and kind of youthful femininity and not as sensual, although rose gold could work in that as well. But paired with those kind of other elements, I think that works beautifully. You could also do gold and silver. I think silver tends to have a bit more of that innocence into it. Gold can sometimes feel a little bit more matured and sophisticated, and so you could play around with that. Of course, if you look better in gold though, don't worry about it. It's not a huge thing. It's just something to think about, the kind of psychology behind the metal. Romantic essence. Now, I love romantic essence and I don't have romantic essence, but I really feel like jewelry is such a cool way or an amazing way to bring in that opulence, that look at me, that sensual feel to things. If you think about it, in terms of just general ways of looking at jewelry, jewelry is such an intimate thing to be given or to receive, I should say. And it really does wrap itself a lot into that romantic side of things, right? Like a partner giving you jewelry, or we think of getting married, you get your rings, all of those things, especially in some cultures, when they get married, they wear lots of jewelry. So it's a bit of a sign of that romance in general. And it is kind of a way to flirt. And what do I mean by that? I think that sizing and the way it's adorned or layered is gonna have a big impact. Something that has layering or tiered and kind of really emphasizing maybe the chest area or kind of hinting downwards is very sexy. I think that things that feel kind of draped or they fall nicely on the arms, or things that hug the arm, right? Like those kind of, I can't think of the word, but those clips. There's a word, I promise. That's what you want to go for, because it's all of that, you know, hinting to hugging or to maybe touching. Materials are going to play a big role. If there's maybe velvet details into it, like a choker that has velvet detail, or something that has, you know, tiered, like almost like a lying down layered effect. Something that really sparkles and shines is going to attract the eye. You want to be seen, you want to be noticed. That's a very romantic essence element. So lots of diamond and very shiny diamonds, things that feel like that grown-up sensuality. So it's less of bows and, you know, little cutesy details, and it's more of like full feminine, not full feminine, but full grown woman type of energy. Size-wise, I think you could play around with it a little bit. A bigger, really ornate, you know, jewelry is very royal, it's very commanding, it's very look at me, and just draped in jewels is very sensual. Just be careful a little bit, because it can play into somewhat of the dramatic side of things. So I often find dramatic and romantic can often sit next to each other or blend very easily. So that's something to kind of to keep in mind. Medium size is great, and dainty can also work really well, especially if there's just like touches and hints to that sensuality or to that femininity that a lot of jewelry has. For metals, just as long as it's shiny and shown, that's what you want. You also want things to be higher quality, because there's almost that ornate luxury side of a romantic, so I think that that lends itself really well. Lastly, we have ethereal essence. Now, this is an essence I've been flirting with, trying to incorporate a little bit. I do resonate with a lot of it. I just don't see it as my dominant essence, and so I found it really hard at first to really find ways to infuse just a touch, just a dab, just a little bit here and there. So I thought jewelry is going to be such a great opportunity to do that, so it doesn't feel overwhelming on me. So that was kind of my goal essentially with the Linjer kind of jewelry buy. I wanted it to feel, yeah, luxurious, but also very almost vintage and slightly unique, and kind of almost on the side of not mermaid, but that kind of whimsical element to it. So I'm gonna start with the earrings I am wearing. Let me just take one out to show you. So this is the mother of pearl earring, and I am obsessed with it. Let's get it in focus. It's really hard to see. I took video and you'll also see pictures of it, but it is so beautiful, and I like that it just has a little bit of that shimmer iridescent feel to it. And for me, that's a big thing because that's the kind I relate to when it comes to ethereal. And again, this was such a great way for me to include that into my wardrobe. And these are the ones that I have been wearing non-stop. I just think they go with so much, and they are a little bit elevated considering I do have classic essence, but I think they really, I don't know, they suit me. I have been obsessed with them, and I really like mother of pearl. I think it's so beautiful, and it really goes with my coloring as well. It's soft, it's not super shiny, and it doesn't feel overwhelming on me. Pearls in general too, I just love. I just never knew how to put it in without, for me, like a pure pearl necklace is just so much on me. It's too much. So no. The second one I got is the pearl bracelet. I believe it's called Eli, and it also has some blue topaz detailing on it, and it is dainty, it's beautiful. I am truly obsessed with this. How beautiful is that? So it's got the pearl element and then a little diamond here in a blue topaz diamond, which matches the earrings I got. All of that was intentional. I also don't wear a ton of bracelets, and I wanted to get into that because I have very skinny wrists, and I find bracelets so annoying because they fall off very easily. This one, it is a smaller size, I will say that. So if you're going to purchase this, just keep that in mind. It is on the smaller side of the scale, which is perfect for the small wrist community. And it also has a string here, or a drawstring kind of, it's not drawstring. You know what I'm trying to say. You can adjust the size of it, which is, whoever invented this with jewelry needs a prize, because I have it on some of my necklaces, and it's just, you can change it up, and same with this. So if it does feel a little large on you, you can tighten it for it not to move if that's annoying to you. So basically with ethereal essence, you want to focus on that uniqueness, that kind of shimmery detail, and a little bit of that vintage idea. And vintage because it's unique. It's not something that's going to be replicated or everybody buys. It's going to feel a little bit nod to, yeah, that unique flair, that stamp of you. Ethereals really do appreciate individuality and that uniqueness, and it's not showy, it's not loud and expressive the way gamines are. It's a little bit more subtle. It's almost more of like a piece of art, because that's what they appreciate, the kind of deeper level to something. So I think mother of pearl is a great way because it also includes that shine that I talked about in my ethereal video. It also has kind of that iridescent, sort of unassuming nature, which a lot of ethereals have. Especially pure ones. We're not really sure how to approach them, or you're not sure what you're going to get. They're a bit mysterious, and I find that sort of pattern or detail looks really beautiful on an ethereal. You could also do more diamond shimmering, but again, it doesn't have to be extreme. It can be shiny golds and metals and silvers as well to have that kind of reflection back to you, which is also a big thing with ethereals. They love to inner reflect and outer reflect, that kind of dance, especially if light kind of dances on it. That is also a very ethereal thing, that movement. So you could look for jewelry that really moves. I feel like this is what this is doing with dangly pieces. Nothing too solid and too bold and intense. It's a bit more on the dainty side, but has more movement, more flow to it, more of that you can't catch it sort of vibe. Color-wise, maybe on the lighter side, depending. There are darker ethereals too, so you could play around with what kind of vibe that gives off. There's more of that mysterious, maybe a little bit of dramatic essence into an ethereal that has more of those darker gemstones and more moody. But you could also do very kind of lighter pearl, or like I said, the blue topaz bracelet would be a great one to do that. Especially if you're more of that kind of like whimsical type of ethereal that really likes the more lighter side of like mermaid, fairy, and especially ones that are really connected to nature, then you want to go kind of on the lighter side of the gemstones and the coloring, but still wanting that kind of shimmering detail or shiny detail as well. And that is it. That is all there is to say about jewelry and the essences. Of course, not all. There's going to be more videos going in further depth with this, but look out for the next series on my accessory series with the essences. It's going to be about makeup and hair, and I'm really excited to talk about it. Please don't forget about the discount code at Linjer. It's going to be on the screen down below, as well as the link to go shopping for special offers with Linjer. Thank you again to my sponsor, Linjer, for today's video. Such a pleasure working with them, and I'm really excited for you guys to get some pieces. If you're having any trouble figuring out your body type, your essences, or your coloring, I offer all those services and more. All my information is down below, or you can just email me. The email address is down below as well. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all soon. Have a beautiful and jewelry-filled day.